So another supplement that I might take on my recovery days are algae. I take chlorella and spirulina, to be precise, and I would ideally take these with my fatty fish because supposedly these compounds can wash out some of the heavy metals that you're consuming when you're eating fish.
I get that, and it's pretty interesting how basically oceans have changed so much over over the last, I guess, just maybe 100 years or so, where things from the sea was really safe to eat, but today there's so many toxic chemicals in the fish that are then consumed by us. So one really common one is mercury that people talk about, which which
Hmm.
is extremely damaging for the body and builds up the more you eat fish, and especially the bigger fish. So the thing is, you have, say, a big fish lives for quite a bit of time and eats all these small fish that all have heavy metals in them. So that accumulates to a large degree. And that means that, say, if a big fish might eat, say, 100, 200, 300 fish over their lifetime, then that would be a huge amount of heavy metals because it would be the cumulative effect of all that exposure that it gets through the
Hmm.
diet over a whole lifetime. So this is increased so much, and this means that we have to be careful in terms of what we eat in terms of fish. So the smaller fish, they are a lot more favorable to actually go for. So includes things like herring, sardines, salmon. Those are some common ones. Maybe
Uh,
some white fish can also be consumed, but
yeah,
but big fish like,
mackerel,
say,
anchovies.
tuna, shark, those kinds of things that are also consumed, and um, they're really big fish, have a long lifespan, and
Mhm.
they accumulate a lot over their lifetime. So
Yeah.
using these compounds, especially chlorella, is really powerful in reducing this exposure because it basically binds to these heavy metals before they're accumulated in the body. Another thing that one can also do is to do a chelation therapy, which is basically getting your body cleaned out of all these heavy metals. It's quite expensive, but if you have a big exposure, say over a lifetime, then it could be worth it to do that. And some people just opt for that, just live their life, and then they just go for chelation therapy later in life, just make sure that their bodies aren't completely destructed by all of these heavy metals, which could also be an idea if you just only want to focus on it. But if you do, then even as you mentioned, just consuming chlorella specifically around meals can be really powerful, like meals with heavy metals. So a fish could be a really good idea, no matter if it's a big or a small fish. But the bigger, the more important it can be if you really want to minimize that effect. And they know we also have other compounds, toxic compounds like plastics, which you probably know about, that are just everywhere in the oceans, and and a lot like it's basically a toxic wasteland out there.
Hmm.
It's being destroyed by all these companies and people that just throw everything in the water, and means that it's not nearly as safe as it once was, and we have to be
Hmm.
careful what we
Yeah.
how we approach that.
Yeah. Plastics are a big problem in fish, but they're also a problem in meat these days. Like there is a lot of there is some plastic left over in the food that they're consuming, and it's just difficult to get out. And I don't really know what we can do to well, we can avoid consuming this plastic by consuming less fish or making sure that our cows were purely grass fed, but that makes it pretty expensive. Yeah, it's difficult to really cope with the amount of plastic and heavy metals that we're consuming.
Yeah, I'm not aware of whether the chelation therapy it also includes, say, plastics, but all heavy metals should be basically just drained out through using that. So if that also takes care of the plastic, then that could be an opportunity to go for. It could be quite amazing for people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but there are also other things that also reduce toxic exposure and toxic accumulation, basically, of these different compounds that you get from your diet. as well as even from your skin. The thing is, the skin absorbs about 6 to 7% of all things that are put on it. So that means that even if you don't eat it or drink it, then you still actually get a lot in. So doing detoxing of these toxic compounds can be a really, really powerful thing. So for instance, one really simple thing that I really like, and it's not that expensive, that's activated charcoal. So it basically binds to everything that you do consume within, say, a period of about an hour to 2 hours. So that also means that if you take supplements alongside it, then you don't really absorb those. But it's basically, say, if you're going to consume something that you know is not good for you, or you know there might be some toxic compounds in that, that could be a great way to actually do that and use that before the meal or after the meal or drink or whatever you want to go for to actually reduce that. So that's a really powerful one. There
But
are also
I'm
other
wondering
ones.
about this. Doesn't this also negate the positive effects of food? Like, doesn't it just kind of like destroy the whole purpose of a meal?
So it basically binds to protein specifically, but to most things that are kind of absorbed by the body. So if you have a really good meal and supplements that you take, you really don't want to take it there, but you want to take it at times where you consume things that might not be right for you. And also, if you're unsure, like you could also use it, like whether the meal or the drink, whatever is good. And even say if you're in a fasted state, can also be a great way to actually accumulate these toxins that are actually released through the through the bloodstream and through the oxidation of the fatty acids that are happening to a greater degree when you're fasting or in ketosis even. So there can also be a way to also reduce that. And even so, it's actually something that I noticed a lot myself in the past. I did a lot of sauna bathing, and so if I if I hadn't done the sauna for maybe just a few weeks or something, um, I actually got like nausea by just being in there for some time. And if I just took the activated charcoal before it, then I didn't experience it at all because basically it bound all these toxins that are otherwise that are actually released by the body through the sweat. So it's actually
Interesting.
quite powerful.
Yeah, yeah. That doesn't seem like a bad idea using charcoal in combination with the sauna.
Yes, and even so in hospitals, if people get some toxins in, like something that the body can't really handle, can't really absorb, something really toxic for them, then they actually have been pumping like activated charcoal in the stomach for I think maybe 100 years or more. It's been really common practice actually in hospitals to do that because it's so powerful in really binding to those compounds that are actually absorbed by the body otherwise. So also if you say if one does an overdose or something, usually they also use activated charcoal to that which the person was then consuming and could otherwise have killed the person. So it's really powerful and it's yeah well known in medical circles and um really
Yeah,
safe compound to use.
yeah. Is it safe to use orally for, say, your gut health?
Yes, so say the more toxins you get in, the worse your gut health is. So to help bind to some of those and to get rid of some of those is a really good idea. So as mentioned, even if you aren't consuming something that actually is toxic for you, if you like your body is still filled with a lot of toxic stuff. So that means that if you didn't use it outside of say meals, drinks, whatever, so especially so in a fasted state where you're more inclined to release more of these compounds, then it's a really good idea to actually use something like that. And
Hmm.
I've used that during, for instance, the extended fasts before with great success as well. So it's quite versatile and
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
And do you think this call is selective?
So as mentioned, it absorbs most of that you um are releasing from the body at a given moment in time, basically, or accumulating. So that's also why I would not take it around a really great meal and supplements, but I would take it at times where you're releasing a lot of things. So for instance, doing fasting or eating or consuming something overall that you know or believe might not be the best for you and might include some really bad compounds.
Another supplement that I take is ashwagandha. I take this because it's possibly good for reproductive health, just like fenugreek seed extract. Yeah, it also is associated with stress relief. So I think this is a good supplement to take before bed or a few hours before bed, maybe together with some other supplements that you might be taking for the night. And then there are a few supplements that I would only use occasionally, like psyllium husk if I'm lacking fiber, or vitamin C if I'm not having any red fruit or enough red vegetables or enough fruits for that day. And then I might also supplement with omega-3 if I'm not consuming enough fish for the day. And then another one is l-theanine, which I might take to offset the effects of caffeine. And that's all that I'll take on these recovery days. And of course, there are some supplements that I take on every day that we discussed in our previous video.
Cool. And yes, it's kind of up to how much one wants to recover, how much one wants to optimize during the recovery days. So as we discussed before about the supplements, the strong heart and the smooth move products that could be really powerful and really amping up recovery. They have these say less powerful but still quite powerful things that you can also do to optimize things. So it really depends on where you're at in a given day, and ideally you would always shift things depending on how your body is at a given stage. So
Mhm.
we don't have so much data on really how to optimize it based on a day-to-day level from a given individual, because there's so many factors at play. Whether you partied the night before, whether you slept a lot, slept little, whether you did a workout or not, whether you ate some great or bad food, and even if you ate a combination of good and bad food, like all these factors, they make a big difference. And the more that are in your favor, the less you would probably have to focus on recovery, and the more you probably have to do it. So this is really
Mhm.
important to consider, and why we could use a lot of different variables in determining this. And I think it's a really key principle that people don't really focus on. Also in studies, you see they do the same thing every single day, no matter how people are at in their life, what's happening. And it's really dumb because that never gives the ideal outcome of anything, because you can easily overdo and underdo pretty much anything. And that just means that they might or they will surely get much better benefits if they actually optimize it on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes do it, sometimes don't do it, sometimes do it to a greater or smaller degree. And all these things, they're really important. So it's also how I'd really focus on these things. And the same with days where you focus on muscle growth, how much you want to focus on it and where your body is at, and how much you can kind of handle. So these are really important considerations, and not really talked about a
Mhm.
lot, but truly the way to look at the body in the most optimal way. That's really how I would do it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Like if you're partying, at least if I'm partying and I know I'm gonna have a few drinks and I know I might lack sleep, then I'll probably take some anti-inflammatory supplements like the ones that I created for Elixir Life before going out and then after going out as well, maybe the day after as well. And same for the other side of what you said, like gaining muscle, like how much do you want to stimulate muscle growth, and how much how much glucose do you want to send to your muscles, and how long do you want to be in that state of promoting mTOR, and how long do you want to be in that state of promoting AMPK, and that should all be based on your goals and your own situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a good approach, and also a good example in terms of the partying, and like doing that before and after. That's a really good way to help lower the negative effects of what you would do at that party. So this is really important, and we understand that life can get in the way. Sometimes it's easier not to do something or do something or whatever, and that's totally fine because no one is perfect, and we want to just do the best that we can and just what we feel best doing. But the more you can basically try to fine tune your body based on how you're at the given moment, the better you can feel long term. There are so many compounds, so many things that could be done to really fine tune all these things. And uh, I think the most important thing is just to really try to focus on a few of the most important ones, and then trying to go from there. And also some that we didn't cover today. And it's also, the thing is also, do you want to do everything, or do you want to just do the most important ones? So again, listen to your body, and if you have any additional questions or want any other advice or anything, just feel free to reach out to us. Otherwise, hope this was helpful, and appreciate all of you watching out there. And for you taking the time as well, Wouter. It was great to discuss this with you.
Yeah, thank you to Andreas, and thank you to our viewers as well. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the next one.